One of the most fanciful of them involved the curse of the mummy case. In 1910, British Egyptologist Douglas Murray was approached in Cairo by a mysterious American who sold him a mummy case. It had been the casket of a 16th century BC high princess of Amun-Ra, a powerful woman in the cult of the dead. She had left behind an evil curse on anyone who despoiled her grave. First to feel it, the American who died before he could cash Douglas Murray's check. Murray laughed, but 3 days later, his gun exploded, blowing his arm off. Now, heading back to England, 2 friends of Murray's mysteriously died. Also 2 servants. Now, back in England, he gave it to a woman friend. Her mother died suddenly. Her lover deserted her. And the woman came down with a mysterious wasting disease. Her lawyer said, give it back to Murray. And Murray, it was said, gave it to the British Museum. Almost immediately, the museum's photographer and Egyptian director dropped dead. The British Museum was losing its charm. Rumor had the board arranging to unload it on a New York museum. Fortunately for New York, the mummy's case never got there. There are those who firmly believe that she was in the cargo hold of the unsinkable Titanic when she took more than 1,500 people to the bottom on April 15th, 1912. A fascinating yarn, but a lot closer to mystery than history. Or is it? In a moment, we will return to the Titanic to see the treasures recovered from the ocean floor.
Prestigious Center for Science and Industry, La Villette. Here again, Kelly Savalas.
One of the most important men at the launching was an American, billionaire banker J. Pierpont Morgan. J.P. Morgan had a very special interest in the Titanic. In fact, you might call it a controlling interest. He held enough stock in the American corporation, which owned the White Star Line, to make the Titanic an American ship. Oh, by the way, J.P. Morgan will later change his mind and cancel his plans for sailing on the Titanic's maiden voyage. Holland and Wolff were determined to make the Titanic not only luxurious, but unique. It even had a French sidewalk cafe, which added to an already stylish ship, as our friends here say in Paris, a soupçon of panache.
Edith Heisman was 15 when she was put off the sinking ship into a lifeboat. She, too, remembers the Titanic well.
It's really a very beautiful ship. The staircase of the first class is really beautiful. And the second class is as good as the first. Just as beautifully laid the tables were, and the most beautiful paintings were up on the wall. Then they had their swimming baths and gymnasium for people and children's place. It was a floating palace.
When fully outfitted, the cost of this floating palace will reach $7,500,000. Today's equivalent, $90 million. On April 2nd, 1912, finally complete, the Titanic prepares to steam out of Belfast Lock for her trials. Smoke never comes from the fourth funnel, except in paintings. It's a dummy, used for ventilation. White Star knows that the public associates power with a number of funnels on a ship. Too bad they didn't spend the money on lifeboats.
Oh, about the lifeboats, the original design calls for 64. This is later cut to 32, and later still to 16. After all, you'll never need lifeboats on an unsinkable ship.
As the Titanic followed this route out of Belfast on its way to England, a smoldering fire was discovered in a coal bunker. As we will learn tonight, this fire could have a major impact on our story.
RMS Titanic is under the command of White Star's Senior Captain E.J. Smith, who has delayed his retirement just long enough to take the ship on her maiden voyage to New York and back. With his distinctive white mustache and beard, his regal bearing and air of authority, Captain Smith is the perfect model of the British ship's master. The Titanic tied up at Berth 34 here in Southampton only once to take on provisions and passengers for her maiden voyage.
For the 5 days before they arrive, the Titanic will be the center of furious activity. Crewmen assigned on by the dozens, stokers, trimmers, cooks, and waiters. Only Southampton's best sail with Captain Smith.
Provisions enough for a town are taken aboard. 43 tons of meat and fish, 2,000 quarts of ice cream, 1,200 pounds of marmalade, 1,500 bottles of champagne and other fine wines. A cigar after dinner? Not to worry. There are 8,000 of these aboard. Soon we'll be diving with the French expedition to recover hundreds of items which the world thought were lost forever. But first, we'll return to the Titanic as she sails from Southampton for her voyage into eternity.
Sponsored in part by Quaker Oatmeal. It's the right thing to do.